All right, welcome in 6:30, August the 7th, for another informative safety focus of the week. Every week we start off with a little COVID awareness here and 9 new cases yesterday. So all in all, this week's been pretty steady, and you can see the curve here on the screen too. You can kind of see it's been gradual, and then the last week or so, it's actually starting to flatten back out again. So it's good. Let's continue do our part to slow the spread down. So moving forward, today should be a really nice day. Up high of 78, no rain in the forecast. So let's get out there and enjoy it after today's safety meeting. So the code item for the next week is respect the property of others. So it's very critical where all the projects that we're doing, we're constantly, either in the right of way of a roadway or on someone else's property, digging around someone else's utilities, maybe operating equipment next to a lot of vehicles and other people's property. So it's very important that we always are conscious with other people's property and be very respectful. So if something does happen, please report it. Please let somebody know so we can figure out how to properly identify, correct, and learn from it. So this safety meeting, we're going to talk about kind of the incident that happened this week that knocked us off our record of 185 days without a recordable injury. The injury that we did have is that will most likely be days away from work case. So it's very important that we kind of all really raise our awareness on the topic this week. But I did want to set a goal before we move forward. There's about 147 days left of 2020. We went 185 days without a recordable injury, so I really like to strive for a new goal, and that's to try to finish off the year really strong without a days away from work injury case. So we can do it. We proved it. We can do it. We got to take it day by day. We got to follow our best practices, such as starting each day with a really good JHA, with a good plan of the day, identify the hazards and mitigate the hazards through our best practices. So moving forward, we're going to talk about injury prevention in work zones. Work zones for us is one of our most dangerous and highly probable situations that we face out here, that really something bad could happen because of the oncoming traffic, the speed at which that traffic is, how tight the job site is with our equipment, our manpower, all of our tools. It's very confined and very tight. So the struck by potential in work zones is really, really high. Here's a picture of Springfield. It kind of gives us a definition here of a live lane in a work zone. And it's very important that we always contain ourselves to the work zone. And before we ever step foot into a live zone, that we have set up proper protocols, and what we can call an interior traffic control for workplace safety. So moving into our best practices, again, following that hierarchy of controls, we want to try to focus on the most effective, reliable ways that we can work safe each and every day on these projects. Is try to eliminate and remove the hazards again, and try to replace with less hazardous conditions. Physically change or reduce exposure by isolating workers from the hazards. That's what we're trying to do there. That picture before with the Jersey barriers, we're physically removing our workers from the live lane. So again, our best practice is have a plan, execute that plan, alter that plan a little bit if it doesn't make sense, and make sure the plan gets corrected and it gets communicated to everybody in the field. And then controlling the traffic, it's very important. Again, identify that live lane and work zone area, isolate the workers from the traveling public. Avoid those blind spots, because again, in those tight quarters, equipment, everything that you throw into those work zones, a lot of blind spots, a lot can happen. So we need to really be conscious, consistently aware of our surroundings. And then that last line of defense is wearing that PPE. So we always want to be really diligent with how we approach workplace safety, work zone safety. Tips to consider when we're talking about working on a live road like we do in a lot of our projects, Heinsberg, you got Cavendish, you got Springfield, even the substation up in Lowell is right on the roadside edge. So there's just a lot of exposure to vehicles. So it's really important that, and this is something that we talked about kind of post-accident injury that occurred this week, is really being able to identify how many feet per second an oncoming vehicle is traveling. So if you take 1.5 and you multiply by the speed of the vehicle, or you can kind of take the speed of the road, gets you kind of in the ballpark. So at 50 miles per hour, that vehicle is traveling at 75 feet per second. So, I mean, that vehicle can be coming on very fast, 75 feet per second. It's, you know, it takes us 3/4 of a second to react or make a decision. So 75 feet away and they're already pretty much at your, inside your comfort zone for sure. And then in my research last night, I saw that the number of fatal work-related injuries at road constructions, and this is where I kind of want to raise the awareness, averages 123 workers per year. So it kind of breaks down to, in the United States right now, one person every 3 days roughly. It could be driving related, or it could be just an individual on the ground are getting severely injured in workplace road construction sites. So it's a very hot topic. We got extremely lucky that only an ankle fracture came out of this situation when an individual got struck by a vehicle this week. So really want to raise the awareness this week and moving forward throughout the calendar season of 2020 and beyond, that we really put our focus on work zone safety, isolating ourselves from oncoming vehicles. Don't take the chance of stepping into a live lane until we have really good spotters, a game plan moving forward to making sure that we really control those types of situations. And again, our best line of defense is never put yourself out on a roadway ever if you can avoid it. And again, that's that kind of eliminating the exposures by not putting yourself out there in the roadway. That's all I have for today. Ken, is there anything that you want to jump in on regarding that? You're unmuted now.
Okay. All right. Hey, Matt. Good job presenting here. This is certainly a very serious topic, and you know, everybody's fortunate. Josh is fortunate that it wasn't more serious than it was. I also think that, you know, as a driver going through a construction zone, we also have to be alert and follow the speed limit ourselves. I'm not saying this guy that the driver did not. I think he was compliant, but the point is that there's a hazard that we encounter, and we're putting others at hazards when we drive through their job sites. So I get down, I go right down to the speed limit and maintain that speed limit through one of those zones. And we're, you know, that's a duty we have on the other side of this risk to the other workers on the highway. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. All right, we have Ben McKinney. He's here with us today, and he's going to be presenting on corporate announcements and the highlight project of the week. Take it on, Ben.
Thanks, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Announcements. Thanks to everybody for getting your health care declaration forms in. We're at 100% now. That's great. New employees. Cody Archibald and Jonathan Woodworth Jr. So if you see these guys out and about, say hi, introduce yourself, make them feel welcome. Got COVID-19 policies and info here on the email for your reference. The project of the week is the Cavendish Weathersfield STP project. We're contracted with Pike Industries to install a slope stabilization system along Route 131 in Cavendish. The existing slope is very steep and comprised of soil, cobbles, and bedrock. We're responsible for installing over 1,300 soil and rock anchors, varying in length from 5 to 15 feet in length. A Teco mesh system is installed over the anchors. The total linear footage of soil and rock anchors is expected to be nearly 14,000 feet by the end of the project. In addition to installing over 2 miles of 40 millimeter hollow bar on the project, ECI has already mixed over 4 tractor trailer truck loads of Portland cement, all by hand, 94 pounds at a time. Been able to drill with air flush for a good portion of the project because the stiff soil and high proportion of rock generally provides for good hole stability. That's allowed us to gain some economy and use a lot less grout, even though we still use 4 truckloads already. Project is expected to go into early fall. So we're primarily using our big 550 drill mounted on the 230. It's pretty high work, and this gives us the reach that a lot of our competition doesn't have with more traditional air track style drills. See the 230 reaching way up on the slope on that picture there. Using our bigger 200 PSI compressor. There's the old grout plant. We've got the new one down there now. They're self-performing all the testing for the project. I think it's 2% of the anchors need to be tested, which still results in a lot of tests. It's several every week. Testing can be a little tricky, pushing against the soil with the higher loads. We're getting it done. There's another picture of that hollow jack over an anchor assembly with the dial indicators measuring the deflection as we put more and more incremental load on it. There's a close-up of a dial indicator. It's got a couple pictures of mesh too. Here's the crew installing the mesh, putting our log truck to good use. Mesh goes over the type of heavy-duty rolled erosion control product. There's a nearly finished product, just without final torquing, and some of the perimeter boundary rope and some trimming of the mesh. And there's one more angle of the mesh install with the 2 lifts and a guy tied off up on the slope. So it's a neat operation, but got it down to a science. From the photo archives, we have Clarendon Route 103 and 7 intersection from the summer of 05. Looks like
I guess I forgot to change that. I meant to put in a different image. That's last week's image.
That's pretty impressive photos in Cavendish, Ben. Crew's doing an excellent job controlling those hazards. It's look at the falls, the traffic, well organized, and a real safe site. The guys are doing an excellent job down there.
Yeah, the guys are doing a good job. Thanks.
Well, with that said, let's conclude the safety meeting for today. Thank you to Ken and Ben for participating. Thank you everybody for coming in. We have about 50 on so, and then teams of 2 watching. So let's have a safe day. Let's get those JHAs filled up this morning. Let's really emphasize on roadway safety. Thank you.